But if I can swim after 40 days and my mind is
So I was working out at the gym, and I was listening to Jars of Clay, which wasn't something that I typically listen to, but I was listening to the song Flood, and it talks about the 40 days in there, and I didn't really know what the 40 days were in reference to. I knew that I believed in God, or I thought I believed in God, but I wanted to find out more about Him. So I thought, 40 days, let's give God 40 days. 2 days after I decided that I would investigate God, I put a posting on Facebook to my friends saying, I'm looking into God, trying to figure this all out, and to give it a fair shot, I'm going to try to find a church. And I think I even said I'm interviewing churches, and I remember writing, pushy churches need not apply.
So some people commented on that and offered up their church, and I did the same. It was very casual. It wasn't like something that would make you nervous. And she was interested and showed up.
But if I can swim after 40 days and my mind is crushed by the crashing waves that be up so high that I cannot fall, let me alone.
I still remember the usher who brought me to the front row. I thought that was awesome. I was late, of course, and they were singing, and I was kind of looking around at everybody and seeing some hands up here and there, and that was new to me, and just trying to get a feel for everything, and I just remember being overwhelmed by the amount of people there. David started speaking, and I know I was in the front row, but it felt like he was speaking right to me. And so many times during that first service, I teared up and got emotional and just felt like this was where I needed to be. This was where God had sent me.
From there, I just was excited that she was interested and liked the church, and I invited her to our small group, and she met our small group friends and started attending and got plugged in right away because she really wanted to be there. I really think God was calling her to be here.
I decided I'd give it a second week, and I came back, and that's when they did the cardboard testimonies. And that was when people came out with a piece of cardboard, and on one side they had what maybe a sin that they struggled with, or just a struggle that they've had in their life. And then they flipped over that cardboard, and it said how God had helped them through that struggle. And one of the church members that came out with a cardboard cutout about infertility, and that's what I was struggling with, and broke down, cried, and when she turned over her sign and it said that she was pregnant, I cheered. I didn't even notice who was around me. I just started clapping and cheering, and found her at the end of the service too. And that's kind of after my second week, I knew that this was where I belonged. That's when Aaron really started, I'd say, investing in me. There was Starting Point, which at first I was kind of reluctant to go to, and Aaron pushed for me to go to Starting Point. She even went with me to, I'd say, at least half of the Starting Point sessions, which at the time I didn't have a child, but looking back now that I do, I see what an investment that was, because she's a full-time mother, or full-time employee, full-time mother, and she gave up all of her extra time to come sit with me in Starting Point to hear things that she'd already known, but she knew that it was new to me, and she knew that I was just getting comfortable with it. And then the same thing happened with community group. Aaron kept inviting me to hers. I was really not sure about getting started with something like that. And again, the first time I went, I was hooked. These people were welcoming and sweet, and they knew the gospel. And that was something so new to me, to be in a community of people who knew God and would hold me accountable. And these are some of my lifelong friends now.
So at this point in her journey, Natasha is coming every Sunday. She's going to community group. She's going to Starting Point, and she isn't yet a follower of Jesus. And then a crisis came. Take a look at this.
In August of 2010, my husband was sick, and He called me from work. Like I said, he's a police officer. He never called in sick from work, but he said that he had not been feeling well and almost passed out and went home. And I went home from work to see how he was doing, and he was white as a ghost and throwing up blood clots. And long story short, got him to the hospital, and he was in ICU in under 15 minutes. And the first person I called when I got to the hospital was Erin, and I just asked her to please call my community group and pray, because I didn't know how to pray at that moment. It was too difficult for me. I couldn't even talk to God at that point. So Erin, I know, made all the calls to all my small group members and lifted him in prayer. And that meant so much to me, not even being a Christ follower at the time, to know that there were people at that moment praying for my husband. And the following day after that, when I spoke to my husband's doctor, he said how close I had come to losing him. And again, just knowing that it was my friends at church who got us through that, and who prayed for him to be okay. I could not get through that, and I feel like they carried me. And I remember sharing that with my husband afterwards and saying, you know, these people prayed for you, and you're still with me. And it was just a very moving experience to know that I had people who, again, weren't just saying it. I knew that they were doing it. And that's why that was the first phone call I made, because I needed that. I needed that support versus people just telling me he's going to be okay. I needed to know that people were asking God to save my husband.
It wasn't too long after that on a Sunday morning when Tasha sat in here and she placed her faith in Christ. Well, I'll let her tell the story. Watch this segment.
I actually got to be in church with her, and she felt like that was the moment that she became a Christian and accepted Christ. And it was cool because we didn't always go to the same service. We didn't always sit together, but we happened to do so that week, and it was very emotional.
Normally at service, I am hanging on every word that David's speaking. I'm normally very invested. But this one day, I was just kind of out of it. And sorry, David, wasn't paying too much attention. And then one of the worship songs came on about giving your life to God. And suddenly in that moment, I just felt something and knew, this is it. This is it. I'm done. I'm done pretending. I'm done looking for reasons to believe. I'm just going to give my life to Christ. And Erin was sitting right there. So throughout our lives, we had been together, and she invited me, and she had invested in me, and she had prayed for me. And I just think that was a really nice touch from God to let that moment happen with her sitting right next to me.
And, now the cycle continues. In fact, last week, I wasn't speaking, so I went over to the Webster campus, spent the morning over there, and was standing in the back. And it was dark during singing. I looked down, I think that's Natasha down there, and asked one of the volunteers if that was Natasha. And I watched. Well, actually, I didn't see this happen, but I heard about it after. She's sitting there, and now she's praying, investing, and inviting, doing small things, open doors of opportunity. A brand new family came in, husband, wife, 2 kids. Hard to find 4 seats together last Sunday over at Webster. And they're sitting on the stairs. And so she leaves her seat. She finds 4 chairs, sets them up, invites them to sit there because she's just trying to do what others have done for her. But when she thinks about praying, investing, inviting, there's really one person that comes to her mind. Take a look at this one last video.
My husband is an avid hunter. So we've had discussions on him coming. He's definitely open to coming. And that's another thing about my community group is I'm not alone in praying for my husband's salvation. This is where I'm going to cry. They're praying for him too. And they're praying for my son. And for people to invest in somebody who they don't really even know that well, I'm just so thankful for it. And any time that my husband's joined us for a community group or been to events that we've had, they make him feel so comfortable, and it's so natural and normal. You bring somebody into community group and you're thinking, like the whole time my head's just spinning, like what is he gonna think? How is he gonna feel? And I don't know why I worry about it, because they make him feel so at home. And so it's pretty awesome to know that he'll get there someday through prayer, and I don't lose hope for my husband. I'll get him.
It's always like, wow, so great that this person loves this so much. Yeah, it almost like it's renewing to you as the person who's been attending and has been a Christian for a while. Like, you get to see what's so great about God all over again through their eyes.
How many things fit together? Like I was listening to Jars of Clay. Like, I was introduced to Jars of Clay by Aaron's dad. Like all the little pieces that fit together. I remember thinking before I came to Christ, everything was just a coincidence. Everything was just fate. I don't believe in coincidence anymore. I don't believe in fate anymore. I believe in God, and I believe in Jesus Christ. That's why these things happen.